And we are live.
SoundMinds.
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 Yes, sir. It is Sunday, 7 p.m. as naturally you should be watching this SoundMinds podcast, but even more so today because we got two phenomenal heavy hitters, man. Some spitters that really are about their business when they put that pen to paper. You know what I mean? And I think that um, now more than ever, we should always celebrate our queens, right? So, new regime, new people in offices, and so on and so forth, and breaking barriers and all types of histories being made. But at the same time, in line with that and in the same vein, we got one of the dopest female MCs I've ever heard, Miranda Wright, and we got one of the dopest spoken word, the voice of a goddess, I say, Miss Ray Jane. So please give them a
Yes,
Sound
let's
Minds round of applause.
say
Thank you.
SoundMinds.
Sound minds. What
There
I
up?
know.
you
I'm
go.
gonna say that's gonna be my dreams tonight. Sound
Let's go.
minds.
Let's go. So
We got to stick with the voices. They say it better than us right now.
they really do. They really do. So before we get into the episode, want to welcome my brother back. We missed you. Your presence was definitely missed last episode, brother. And we haven't seen you in 2 weeks, and um, we could get into whatever
Yeah,
when you decide. You know what I'm saying? But welcome back, brother. Thank you for gracing us with your presence as well, brother.
it feels good to be back, man. It feels great. You know what I mean? And I feel stronger, man. I got to tell you one thing, man. I'm running with the spirit of my mother in me right now. I'm gonna tell you that right now, man. My mother is running through me right now, and she's making me very strong right now. So
Let's
you know what
go.
I mean. So we gonna go ahead and have a great episode. You know what I mean. And we have two queens that is literally in the lyrical field, this lyrical lane. So this episode is going to be powerful because you got lyricists up at the top, and then you got the queen lyricist at the bottom right there. Let's go.
It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. So the backbone to this episode before these um fabulous women introduce themselves, the backbone to the episode is really to celebrate the queendom, right? And in regards to um when people look at females in hip hop, the culture, or just anybody who spits as a female, they usually are waiting to hear the all types of kind of like disrespectful terminology and words that are kind of spit about themselves. And I think that, Sound Minds, we definitely believe that women should not only be shared or seen in a certain light. So it's only right to bring in two spitters who don't do that, who choose not to necessarily um, try to fit in the lane that everybody else is, just to kind of controversially get likes or subscribers and so on and so forth. And so what better two than two from two different worlds, but sort of kind of interchangeable, where it is hip hop, Miranda writes, and you got Ray Jane with spoken word, and both could spit. And Ray Jane is a spitter herself. I put up the video where she was spitting. It was crazy. Everybody was getting at me like, "Yo, who's that?" So don't get it twisted. We can't box them in. We can't say that Miranda is just a MC, and we can't say Ray Jane is just a spoken word artist. They're just spitters. So that's why the name of this is Potent Woman Wordsmiths, so that we celebrate rightfully the queens that they are. So by all means, whoever wants to take the floor first, please introduce yourself and let them know who you are.
My name is Miranda Wrights, and I always say, like, my goal musically is to just create positive feel-good music. I think hip hop has always been for me freedom of expression. That's what I got from the culture, and I just feel like like to use my voice to empower, to really celebrate the culture that we have. I think it's an amazing opportunity to resonate with people all over the world on a level that we can't do just through conversation, but we can do that through music. So I'm all about just putting a good message out there, good energy, good vibes. That's kind of where I like to stay and what I like to spread.
Man, could have been said any better. Oh my God. Welcome to the show. Oh my God, that was
I want to
that's
sound
powerful.
minds to that note on how art can reach people across the world, especially hip hop, who we might not ever meet in person. And even if we did meet speaking in regular conversation, we just curve each other, right? So like art really helps us hit each other in the soul and across distances. And we found that in profound ways recently.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely, sis. I'm definitely down with everything that you just said. And that sharing of power is important. You know, as females, we don't do that enough, making space for each other. So the message that you are trying to put out there is most certainly coming across.
Most definitely.
Miss
Most
Ray
definitely.
Jane with the humbleness. Let's hear you, Miss. Let's hear your introduction of who the great voice is.
So they call me Ray Jane. That's what I call myself. Um, I think that I gravitated to spoken word because I had not given myself permission as a woman, as a human being, to speak my piece for most of my life. And I think as I'm getting older and growing into myself, I'm allowing myself space to say what I have to say, and trying to use poetry and, you know, spitting as a conduit to be a conduit, you know, so not just to lift myself, but to do as you brothers are doing for us right now. Thank you very much. But being a conduit for allowing our own energy to be shared with other people and encouraging other people to be vulnerable and to try things that are scary as a result, hopefully.
Dope. And I gotta say, so not to in any way sound like a creep, right? But both of you women, I've been very much following for some time. I know Miranda, I've been following you for some years and like a year and some change now. Funny story, I actually seen you in a local mall, but
Oh,
it's
really?
yeah. It's real funny. I just moved up from New York City, make it 2 years now, and I was in the local mall and I seen you. You was with your brother, and I was like,
Elegant.
oh snap, look at
Did I
that.
have like crazy hair and
Nah, you was
probably
good. You was good.
sweatpants and like
You did
tips?
have sweatpants on. Yes, you did.
I always wear sweatpants and a hoodie. I'm like, I
You
need to
did
get my
have yes, you did have
sweatpants out.
sweatpants and a hoodie. And then it's funny because I had just recently, probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to that, for some reason or somehow, came across your art, came across your music, and I said, "Oh snap! How funny is that? Here it is. She's in front of me." But you know, you was with your, I believe your brother, and I was like, "All right, cool." But then I told my daughter, one of my daughters was with me, and my other daughter was with my wife, and I was like, "Oh snap! You know what's funny? That young lady right there, her name is Miranda Rice. She's sick." And my daughter was like, "Really?" And so again, more the reason why we have this episode, right? And then Ray Jane, we kind of been through the New Eurekan, the open mics and all that. And I got to be honest with you, when I first the New Eurekan, shout out to New Eurekan, shout out to La Bruja, shout out to Advocate for Words, man, great people. We had La Bruja here too, the second season. You know what I mean? She was spitting about some queens and how kings should be. But nonetheless, so the New Eurekan.
Don't forget the WAP remix, bro. Don't forget that WAP remix.
She came out with the WAP remix too. And,
Oh, fire. Crazy, right?
And it's funny because the Zoom thing, I mean, the New Eurekan thing is done by Zoom. So you know how you stuck in windows and you see certain people and, there's a lot of people. There was a lot of people in the open mics when I would be there, you know what I'm saying? And I was just sharpening my sword and just trying to support too and see some talent. And then, but there's a lot of windows. So sometimes you sit back and you just wait for the person to spit. But then I'm like going through whatever. And then I left for a second, came back, and I heard this voice that was just insane. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, who is this? So, and ever since then, Ray Jane has definitely been, and I would definitely say in high demand. And a lot of people have, I know she does the neurotic open mics too with Advocate for Words. And so that's how I, met Ray Jane, and then Miranda. That's how I kind of came across you, and I was like, wow, it'll be crazy to put them in one episode together, and let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So, um, thank
Absolutely.
y'all, thank
Thank
y'all
you.
so
Thank
much.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
Yeah,
you.
your presence is highly felt, and I know that as we got people coming in, dropping comments and all that, I just want people to feel that comfortable to ask you ladies questions as well. But if you was to say, the first question I have for the both of you is, if you were to say that there was a person that you looked up to kind of um, inspire you, or even more so, kind of like push your pen to be as dope as it is when you were younger, who would that be?
Ooh, that's an easy one for me. I think that's actually some shadow work I've been doing recently, just trying to get into who speaks through me. And I think it's always been my grandmother. My mother is from Jamaica. And so my grandmother had to hustle, to get the whole family here. And she was wild. She was wild with the mouth. She didn't care, but she said what she needed to say. And she taught me about the importance of passion and having an understanding for who you are, and not only being able to speak to who you are, but also have people recognize who you are with your mouth closed, but your actions going. And so I'm trying always to harness whatever wisdom it is that she was carrying around in all them bags, I'm trying to harness that every time I open my mouth.
That's awesome.
I
Love
say,
that.
praise to the ancestors.
I love that. I think it's interesting, Ray Jane, that you say that, because I think a lot of times as artists, people think our inspiration slowly comes from other artists, when really I think it comes from the people closest to us. And for me personally, like, my parents are like diehard supporters of what I do. And I always say that I know that's rare, because most parents be like, go and get a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, get a real job, go out, do something, blah, blah, blah. But my parents have always held me down. And my dad specifically, like, ever since I started rhyming, I feel like not only did he always make it a point, just growing up, like musically, to play me certain albums, but he always held lyricism and real, like, wordplay and just art, like hip hop from an art form, before it got, like, I feel like it's evolved so much, but like, I feel like just because where he came up in his era, like, he grew up like with the greatest of the great, right? So he always prided himself on listening to like MCs with lyricism and that really put out, meaningful projects. And I feel like for me, like, he used to like challenge me. Like, when I first started rhyming, like, he'd be like, you know what, this sounds good. And it was never something where it was ever like overstepping, like, creatively. But I felt like he always just pushed me to like be the best that I could be. You know what I'm saying? Even when it came to shows, I felt like he always had like my back, whether it was me, whenever it came to how I was expressing myself, or writing wise. So I think that's interesting that you say that, because I feel like my parents, like, they really inspired me in terms of me feeling like, okay, I can do this. And then I took that and I ran with it. And then now my mind, it's always like, I just always say that I want to be the best that I possibly can be at my craft. So I try, and harness that. So
Wow, I love that example that you just used, because of how your father made the point to show you specific
Mhm.
lyricists and
mhm,
albums early, embedded in your mind early, right? It's like it's something that I'm practicing right now with my children, and I was just telling that to my sister, on how I have an educational video just playing on YouTube while they're playing. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Knowing that they would be looking at it and playing at the same time, where
mhm,
it's still being embedded into their subconscious, because eventually they will grow into the knowledge.
Mhm.
And also I do that with music and with my children with music, and I'm now seeing that manifest in my oldest, where my oldest is now finding his way into learning how to write, but he's like, okay, what do I write about, and he's like, okay, one of his writings was about like video games, and another one, what the first one of his first raps that he wrote was about the digestive system.
Cool.
Yummy foods go into your mouth, down your esophagus.
Ooh, science
Yeah,
here.
yes.
That's more vocabulary than the
I
average person would have
know. I
recognized.
know.
I'm telling you.
No,
I was just
You,
thinking that.
no.
all the way down through your digestive system until you poop it out is what he said at the end of the book.
Okay,
So
performance.
he is now but he's now a young teenager, 15, and the other kids that he know that rap, they don't rap. They not trying to be lyricists. They trying to be what they hear on the radio. They trying to be like the artists that they look up to, which is mainly the ones on the radio. They don't know anything else. They don't have a parent that showed them, that there's a whole nother lane. This is what it's really about. This is what it really comes from. It's supposed to come from a certain place when you write and things of that nature of just breaking down the music to your children. And for your father to do that for you, now you're the manifestation of that. Like you literally have implemented those lessons, and I'm now seeing my children implement those lessons also with now their creativity. So it just hit
I
home when
feel
you
like
said that.
I want to chime in and just apologize to all the children and adults who the men in their life have not been there for them, because like you was just, I heard the phrase they don't have a parent, and like Ray Jane said, like maybe now when you're doing your shadow work, when you're going back over what makes you you, it's never too late to recognize these influences that might not have been the most popular, or the ones that was like the carbon copy, and like you always hear people say Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas. You know what I'm saying? You always hear people say like these answers where it's like you're saying the right answer. You're trained in school to say the right answer that's acceptable, but you're not trained to dig into an answer that might be there. And it might not be right or wrong for somebody else, but I bet you 9 times out of 10, it has something to do with your parents. You know what I'm saying? For those of us who didn't, like my father passed away almost the age I am now. You know what I'm saying? And when I was coming up, he wasn't there. But man, I understand the influence he had. And man, I'm grateful that he was my father. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to apologize for everybody who hasn't had a father. And another thing I know is the balance of y'all bringing the spoken word and the lyricism and having a grandmother and a mother to look back at, and having a father is so powerful, because this is how racist and separated and sexist we are, right? Imagine, Ray Jane, you had just said your influence, and Miranda, you had just said it was your mom. The message that comes off, even though you didn't say it, is yes, dads suck and dads don't do that. And a lot of us as men, we thought that a lot of times, you know what I mean? So sometimes it takes a sister to be like, oh, no, my dad was able to do this too. You know what I'm saying? We all can do this. And I just appreciate y'all highlighting that. Like, if you're a parent, regardless of your gender and sex, your kids are watching you. You know, if they don't see you now and you're not a superstar, they will realize you are the superstar eventually.
Exactly. Because when we talk about inspiration, right, what I'm really thinking is who grew you, right? And then I'm really asking who are the farmers in your life, right? So your parents are your farmers, right? They're giving you everything you need to grow. They're looking at everybody else's crops, making sure they're not putting no whatever was over there, they're not putting up in here. You know what I mean? And also telling you that so that when you grow up, when you're now amongst other people's crops, right? You know who you are. right? So we think of our parents, or at least I think of my parents, as my farmers. My grandmother is my farmer. These are the people that added to what sustained me and what grew me.
I also think too, you
That's dope.
realize the influence and the appreciation when you start to get older. You know what I'm saying? Like now that I'm in like my mid 20s, like, so when it's like when you're 13, I feel like the answer is going to be like a celebrity. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a whole, I feel like a different, just conversation, because obviously that inspiration is always going to stem from, like, I'm sure we all have our favorite artists. So that's there. But things change, because there's also things too where I feel like there's an artist that I may have listened to from 13 to 16 because that was relevant in that part of my life. And then I may have had a new favorite artist from 16 to 19. And then when you turn 21, you see things differently, right? Like, because now, I mean, you're an adult, you can go out to the club. So it's interesting how musically we have influences and they kind of come to certain parts of our life. But like you said, like planting the trees that we're actually planting it with, right? Like those are the things that never fade, because that's a lifetime versus season. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
And it's crazy, because truth of the matter is sometimes, most times, I don't want to put a percentage out there, but many parents don't necessarily understand, as much as it is that we should all understand. But as parents, you should always know that you are highly an influence on everything that your children does. You know what I mean? Or that your child does, and that your children do. But a lot of people don't put that understanding in everything they do, and even something as simple as music. You know what I mean? And it's funny, we having this discussion. I just told my baby girl yesterday, she just recently turned 18, and I told her, hey, I got homework for you. I need you to listen to Mos Def's Black on Both Sides and give me what you feel about that album, front and back. And she was like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? And my daughter is, both of my daughters are very musically eclectic. So they'll hear, my youngest daughter loves the Beatles. You know what I'm saying? And it's just kind of like, yeah. So, and that's the thing. Like when you listen to greatness, it's just kind of like the other person, honestly speaking, there'll be times I'm dropping her off at school, or we're taking long rides. She'll sit there and be like, Daddy, the young one now, she's 12, hits me with, Daddy, could you put Bob Marley on?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, the beauty of the mind, and where a lot of times, a lot of people, and I see no disrespect to no parents, but a lot of times when people are driving in their cars with their children, the music that they're playing and the things that they're just letting rock, like their children are sitting there like, okay, cool, this is regular. You know what I mean? So when you're talking about certain things in your music, and it's so absorbent to our children, you need to kind of be able to filter and say, well, hey, just like movies, this is not for you. There's certain age brackets that you could watch, certain age brackets that you can hear, and that's what makes up the brain, so that whenever they get old enough to start picking and choosing what they need to hear, what they need to do, it's kind of like that's already been set for them. You know what I mean? So shout out to y'all for even speaking on, you know what I mean, the elders and the creators and the farmers, as you said, Ray Jane, which is dope. I think that's a dope analogy, because and my natural name, my given name, birth is George, and George is always known. The origin of George is farmer. So I always said, yeah, I'm planting seeds in people's heads. You know what I mean? How they grow and how they, that's based off of the water and the sunlight that you're utilizing. You know what I mean? So shout out to y'all.
SoundMinds. I want to shout out everybody. We got people on Facebook and YouTube right now. Shout out to y'all. Please make sure, if you on these platforms, click that like button, subscribe, comment. What happens, that pushes the algorithm. This is just the beginning of the show. So when the algorithms push you out that you're being active, that's how it brings more people to chat. But go ahead and text your people too. Text your people, text your sister, text your brother. Let them know we got some two dope lyricists in the place to be, and you don't want to miss them live and get to ask some questions. But the host get to ask questions first. So my first question is this. Specifically, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I could be way off on this, but I feel like with a lot of guys, when we get attention as MCs or leaders, we kind of can tell it's positive. We're like, oh, cool, more attention, more positivity, book more shows. get more plays, likes. And I don't think it works exactly the same way for our sisters. I feel like when sisters are getting attention, it's a battle between, oh, good, more attention, but it's also like, wait, this is weird. It's like, even like when you say, you know, like we as men with daughters as well, we know to tell a woman like not to be creepy, but I was on your Facebook or Instagram. You know what I mean? Like we know, if we're aware what sisters go through, where when we're being gazed at, it's usually not a negative thing unless it's beef. You know what I'm saying? But with women, they always have to navigate. Like someone could be smiling at you and appreciating you, but it could be creepy at the same time. As an MC, you know, there's a lot of introverted occupations where it doesn't matter. As an MC, that's an ongoing thing, right? So I've always wondered, what's that like for sisters who are on stage, on the mic, in front of videos, in front of camera? First of all, just I'm not asking for an answer or a guidebook. I just want to let it be known that's one of the things you go through. And just tell people, is that a little bit of what you go through that guys don't understand, or is that not an issue for you? And how do you deal with that? How do you navigate, like, being appreciative and not turning people off and being, I don't want attention, but at the same time being like, I don't want negative attention. I don't want creepy people to give me attention.
I think, and if you don't mind me going first, Ray Jane, on this, but so I'm very much into like energy, and I think we can feel people's intentions. We can feel if it's genuine. We can feel if it's coming from more of a malicious place or a genuine place. So that's always the first thing. I feel like I can feel what people are giving me, because it's like, I think we all have that ability to be able to.
Oh, she just dropped the call.
The ability
I think she got another call.
The ability to disappear.
See? Real. They had to, you telling the secrets.
There you go. They start hearing, right?
Yeah,
Wait, I disappeared.
There you go.
Can you guys hear me?
We was
like talking like realness, and then poof, be gone. It was like that.
You literally said we all have the ability to, and then you poofed.
So, and up next for my next magic trick, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. So anyway, so we all have the ability to like feel that, right? Like if we open ourselves up to that, we know what it is people are giving us. I think my personal perspective, I think things get more complicated at the industry level than the underground level. And what I mean by that is that when I came up and I started performing, a lot of it was just in classic, like underground, like nightclubs. And 95% of the people in that room were dudes. And I can say I have a lot of just guy friends. Like men have always showed me love, but I didn't feel like it was something where they're just showing me love because, oh, she looks good, blah, 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 blah. I felt like it was genuine. Like I would have people come up after my set and be like, yo, I heard what you said. And I could tell that they were actually listening. So I think, from that perspective, I can say that I've actually had a really good experience when it comes to that. I think like you kind of get what you put out. And I think when you have that mutual respect, people, not that I'm saying that there will always be those people that cross those lines, but those are people that morally are probably not in tune anyway. But if you are asking for respect and you're giving that person respect, I think you're going to get that back. So I feel like when it comes to like the underground scene, I've always had like no problems when it comes to like how I've interacted with like men at shows, how they treated me, blase blue. I think at the industry level, that's when it gets more complicated, because now you're talking about taking it from hobby, right? And when you're doing it at a like career level and you're trying to get up higher and higher on the ladder, now there's different levels of things that are not present. So I think that's where it gets more complicated, and that has always been the biggest challenge for me. Is
you mean like at that level, like people feel like you owe them something
I
if they're like a gatekeeper
I
type
think
thing?
it goes, I guess the most layman way to put it would just be what's expected, and what's expected in order to get to certain levels. And when you're not willing to compromise who it is that you are and what you value, they'll accept that, but they'll push you to the side. You get what I'm saying? Whereas when you talk about like the underground, there's a realness and a rawness there where people are really there to just listen to good music. When it starts to get to different levels, that's when things get diluted a little bit. So that's just my personal experience. I'm interested to hear Ray
I
J's
like your
response on this
point.
because
Thank
I
you.
think it really varies from person to person. So
Yes, yes, of course. And I like your point of, from it being separating it from that to industry to underground because, and you're making it, and from what you're saying, it sounds like underground, you can control your energy a lot more. There's not that much of a battle between energies. Where if you go into the industry, you have to battle against that creepy energy.
yeah, and it's not, and I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like they're, like I said, it's just like that rawness and that realness when you're in that like underground energy. Because there's been a lot of times where I feel like I've watched somebody spit and I'm like, you're a dope lyricist. And that's what we're talking about. So, I definitely think, and like I said, I think a lot of it comes down to respect, like who you have in your corner, like having, and I see people that are commenting, but yes, I have a tight team and we run a tight ship. So,
Oh, there you go too. See, once again, it is also who you are around too. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta have that tight team, and what you are, what you put out, that energy wise. You know what I mean? You put out a certain energy, you're gonna attract a certain energy. And I'm also making my children conscious about that. Even speaking about my son and his rapping, and being
mhm.
conscious of that. He recently, became, a fan and put me on to a rapper by the name of King Von. King Von, rest in peace now, King Von. Rest in peace to the young king. You know what I'm saying? But he was a very talented rapper from Chicago that I just had to listen to from what my son was put me on to. And my son understands now he's conscious of the lyrics. So he knows that these lyrics don't apply to him. He knows this is not something that he wants to be like. But it's a great conversation for me and him to have. It's like, hey dad, this is what our generations is into. You know what I'm saying? What's up? Like, it's King Von. He dope. This is listen, he's a storyteller. His stories are very graphic and you would say violent. Come straight from the streets of Chicago, and he recently passed away yesterday.
Oh
You know what I
no.
mean? Rest in peace. Yes.
Peace.
Rest in
Yeah.
peace. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, now this is an artist that my son was actually inspired by because of his storytelling. It inspired my son to now write a story of his own from a dream that he had. You know what I mean? And yes, obviously he knows that he's talking about a dream, but he's like, yo, he got that inspiration and like, oh, I could write about stories. Like he's trying, different ways, But then we had the conversation about King Von, about his lyrics, because we understand that lyrics is also something that we're putting out into the universe.
Hmm.
Our lyrics, our words that we say is also in a sense casting a spell. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And that's putting out that energy. That's the energy that you are putting out, which means that's the energy you're going to be surrounded by.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So this young king was surrounded by that energy and, ended up in the same environment in Atlanta, and that's how he was able to meet his maker. You know what I mean? I don't know, maker, or, meet pass away. I'm just trying to word it in a way where I don't want to be disrespectful. I want to show all respect. You know what I'm saying? Because I do respect the young man, but at the same time, we understand the energy that you put out is also what you're surrounded by. You know what I mean? And my son took that as a great lesson. You know, he really understands that, you know what I mean, from even now watching this happen, you know, and he just to get to this point of now saying like lyricism has so much power, and I'm glad that we're actually having this conversation to understand how we can build to have more conscious individuals such as ourselves.
Dope. Miss Ray Jane, what's your response to that? What are you anything that you yourself experienced or throughout your performing?
So I'm pretty new to the game as far as exposing myself and via sharing my work, you know. And so I appreciate Miranda for giving her perspective, because I think it's helpful for someone who's just entering, you know, just to hear some of the things to expect. Now, as a female, you kind of walk around having certain expectations of, you know, good and bad, as far as people's intent to manipulate your energy, right? So that's something I'm always aware of, and gratefully thus far, just being, you know, at the New Yo and other open mics and attempting and hopefully accomplishing the ability to exude some positive energy, and also some energy that has boundaries to it, right? And demands a certain level of respect, and not just as an artist, but also as an adult, as a human being, as a woman. And I hope that, you know, what I share continues to speak for me, even when I'm not in the room. If somebody's listening to my SoundCloud or they're, you know, on my website, that the energy that I'm giving through what I'm creating keeps it very clear to whoever is out there, you know, who surrounds me, who protects me, and who I'm here to represent, and how I hope to connect with you, whomever you are, but am expecting at the very least respect.
And that's dope. That kind of segues into the next question I have in regards to both of you as artists, um, as wordsmiths, as lyricists, as you know, spoken word, so on and so forth. What do you feel like? You know, because me myself, I know as an artist myself, being an MC, being a spoken word artist, I always stand on lyricism. I always stand on wordplay. Like that's my biggest, like, you know what I mean? And then on top of that, who I am as an individual, I always stand on justice. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of coincides and kind of like translates. So not every track is going to be about justice, and you know, but there's always going to be that wordplay, that lyricism. So if I was to ask the both of you, where kind of like what is your stance? What is the backbone to Ray Jane? What is the backbone to Miranda Writes whenever you're writing down or whenever you're performing?
I think, if you don't mind, Miranda, I'll take this one first. When I'm performing, I'm attempting to have a conversation with you. And in doing so, I'm giving you respect because you're giving me space. And respecting you, I want to share the best of what I have to offer, which means I'm not trying to be lazy with my words, which also means I'm not being thoughtless about my words. I want it to be challenging for you, but I also want it to be something that's tangible for you, that you can see yourself in. Because when I'm writing, I'm trying to lift myself, and I'm also trying to lift you, because you giving me spaces lifts me. So that's why I use the words that I use to make it interesting. That's why when I'm spitting, I'm high and I'm low and I'm deep and I'm soft, because I don't want to waste your time.
It's like a balance. Your style is like, I ain't about to be put in a box. You're gonna make sure that you get a full course meal.
That's right. Because they're feeding me. When somebody listens to me, when somebody reaches out to me because they've listened to me, that feeds me. That feeds something in me that reminds me that I'm not by myself, you know, because I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable and open to connect and attempt to connect with somebody else. So I come this way attempting to be humble because I don't deserve, what do I do? You know what I mean? Like while I deserve everything, I also deserve nothing. So I'm appreciative of the energy that you give me. So I want to give you the best of what I have to offer.
Amazing. Oh my God, amazing.
Miranda, what is your response?
I feel like my main thing is I feel like I'm giving people my truth. And what I mean by that is, and since the beginning, like none of us are perfect. Am I allowed to like curse or anything? Or is this like PG or whatever? So we all fuck up, right? And I think we need to acknowledge that more. And we will continuously do so. And I think one of the things that I've always wanted to see is more people that are not scared to fuck up, because we need that in order to grow. So I've always felt like when I get on stage, when I'm putting my music out there, like not only am I giving like my truth and letting people into my life, but it's also my way of saying to people that you're all welcome here, because we all come from different places, different backgrounds. We all may, and some people we look different, but we're not, we're all the same, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I feel like if I can give other people my truth, then that allows them to be truthful with me. And then when now you have two people that are being true, now we're building a community based upon love. We're building a community based upon peace. That peace comes from knowing where each other stands. We're building a community based upon of just rawness and realness. And, I think a lot of times too, people are so scared to be vulnerable, but they don't understand that being vulnerable is one of the most amazing things. Like we need that, that's what art is all about. So I think that's my biggest thing is, and even now it's a reminder when I get on stage too, right? Because it's like, I remember like, there's like, sometimes you do really big shows, and I'm not gonna front, I get stressed out because I'm like, I need to perform in front of, a few thousand people today. Am I gonna screw up? you know like it's one of those things where it's like you get that like nervous energy, and then I kind of have to remind myself to be grounded and to just go out there and speak my truth, and then allow that energy to be reciprocated. So I think that's really where I just stand, is I'm just being true with the intention of then allowing that to come back, and then now we can spread that to other people and allow people to understand that that's okay. Like it's okay to be you. Like everybody does themselves in different ways, and that's what makes like just music and relationships and everything so special.
I love that.
It's funny that your name is Miranda Writes, because there's when I do some workshops on like breaking writer's block, stage fright. A lot of people have that. And one of the things I say when I'm having them in a flow state, you can't be in a critical state. It's no erasing, there's no crumpling up paper, everything you say. And one of the things I say is, if you write, you're right. And they say, but can I do this? If you write, you're right. Can I do that? If you write, you're right. What about if you write, you're right? So you saying that's your whole style, like just truth and rawness and going through the process. And your name is Miranda Writes. Like you're the icon of breaking writer's block. That's like the key to breaking writer's block. You.
So real quickly, and again, and I always go back to this, Ray Jane. Thank you. You so dope for this. But one of the things, and just to let it be known, like when I first approached Ray Jane with this was probably back season 2. So I already had the idea of doing this episode. And it was around the time that we were speaking about WAP. And, so I have to ask you, two powerful, incredible, strong females, women of strength, where do you feel that there is what is your opinion, or do you feel that there is a need for women to in a sense, make sure that their content and their context in no way puts them in a disrespectful image that already has been set out by other female artists or other women artists who have or are doing it now? And do you feel like there's a reason to kind of like strengthen your writing and your content and context, especially when you have younger, ladies, younger little women who are walking around and saying, I would love to do this too, but this is the representation that I see is only this type of style where I got to sell a body part and I got to speak, very disrespectful about myself.
Do you mind if I answer this one first?
Absolutely.
So I think that's an interesting question that I honestly get asked a lot, because it's a question that has really 1,000 different answers. So I think the first thing is that we have to respect like freedom of expression. You know what I'm saying? Because the minute we tell people what and what not to say, now we're losing rights as people, whether we like it or not. Like, that goes back to opinions, right? You may not agree with somebody, but the fact that we can agree to disagree is a beautiful thing. So I don't think we should ever lose that. I don't. I think there's space for all different kinds of music. I do. I think there is space for it. I think there's a time and a place. I think that in a way it has to be that way so we can appreciate when things are different. I think the biggest thing that I always say is that I would love to just see more balance, because I think sometimes people assume that certain things bother me, and it doesn't really bother me, because I feel like I'm comfortable in the space that I'm in. Like, I know what I represent, and that doesn't even mean that those other women don't represent that either. They're speaking from what they want to put out into the world. Like, we can't control that. What I do think we need, and we see it more with men in hip hop than we do with women, is that I do think we need more of a balance. I think we need to have it where now it's all on an equal level, and that you don't have to dig for the other stuff. And now we're in a comfortable place where we can say that we can, like, if you were to name aloud things that are all in different places, we probably wouldn't do that. Most people wouldn't be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because anybody that's going to listen to me is going to listen to me. They're in like an underground level. Same thing with Ray Jane. Like, we're just in that like zone. But I think we need to have that balance where everybody's being seen, and everything is being welcome. And then maybe go as far as having everybody do something together to show from a women's standpoint that we can still all respect one another, even though that we're different. So I think that's kind of more where I stand on it, is that you can't control it. You actually have to let it be, because we don't want to take away from the right to express ourselves as we see fit, because I believe in that. I think we just need more of a balance where, people like myself, people like Ray Jane, people that are really dope ass lyricists that are women are being pushed in the forefront. So for any time you hear on Hot 97, for every other song you hear a song by Miranda Wright to Ray Jane.
Speak that, sis. Speak it. Definitely. I would have to agree with exactly the perspective that you have, Miranda. I think that for too long, everyone but women have been in charge of how women should be. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that we will get anywhere as a society if we continue to fragment our women.
Yes.
I think there are women who find power in showing their skin. I think there are women who find power in being completely covered and having the only thing that speaks for them be just their mouths. And I think we need to create a society where there's space, as Miranda said, for all of us, for all versions of what it could mean to be a woman. I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what women can do, because we haven't been allowed to be ourselves without the bounds created by everyone else. So I think as artists, the point for me of being an artist is giving myself permission to be exactly what I would be if I didn't have everybody in my ear telling me what I can't be. So I think that's the same permission that we have to give women, have to give young girls when we are, encouraging them to be vulnerable. We should also be teaching them that vulnerability is both permission and an invitation, right? So it's permission for you to say what you got to say and an invitation for other people to appreciate you as you've presented yourself. And I think that's what we need to put the emphasis on, appreciating women as however they choose to present themselves.
Just say that one last part one more time. We don't want them to miss that gem.
We got to appreciate women however they choose to present themselves.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love that. I got to be honest. I love both of those answers, and I think Miranda is right. And not definitely not a shameless plug, and not a disrespectful statement, but at the same time, seen as both, if whatever it is, Hot 97, right, being a very big radio station, and others, Power 105, and so on and so forth. And I think one of the phenomenons of not seeing that balance is so detrimental to our people, especially if you are in, a avid hip hop culturist where you're just like, nah, I love this. And, I can't tell you how many times, like, especially now with the riots and everything going on with COVID and so on and so forth, there's a lot of stress, right? So a lot of times these major record labels, or rather major record stations, radio stations, they now decide to be very pro and anti this, that, and the third, but it only lasts for about 2 or 3 tracks. You know what I mean? When we know, like, that's one of our battles as SoundMind artists. One of our biggest things has been, we're about our lyrics, we're about upliftment, we're about empowering. Those are probably 3 things that you're not going to hear on your major radio stations right now, just based off of the fact that that doesn't sell. The negativity sells. So even with this topic, it's just kind of like, yeah, there are females who are going to sell a toe to you, you know what I mean? The prettiest of paint toenails, you know what I'm saying? But then there's somebody else like, nah, let me talk about my Mondo. Let me put this pen to work. You know what I mean? So I think we do need that balance.
And if you don't mind me adding to that real quick before we go on to the next question, because like when I was saying that, it's not even just that station. That was just like, one of just in general, right? But I think that's why, though, too, it's so important that we support our independent music communities. Because the other thing that I will say, because I've met a lot of famous people and like really dope musicians, regardless of where they fall, whether they're A-list celebrities, B-list celebrities, underground, they appreciate good music. So I think we all like need to acknowledge that. I think the difference is that there's such a gap in things being heard that people just don't know about it. So I think that's the other thing is, so it's like, as music listeners, and I hope anybody that's watching this at home, like if you have an independent artist, like please like share their music, comment their stuff, because the way that you guys can allow us to go on Hot 97 and spit something is for the people that are hosting Hot 97 to let them know that we exist. And that's so important, is that we need to really, artists need to support artists, your friends, your fans. Like it's so important to constantly ride for that person if you believe that person, because that's the other thing, is like making sure people know about new people. So I just want to put that out there. So make sure you guys support your favorite independent artist.
I like that you made that point, because we really do have to recognize that we are in these times. Like, it's not like the old times anymore. We like, as there are independent artists, there are conscious artists that have millions of
Yes.
followers. Like millions. But I've never heard of them until just now. But
Yeah.
when I heard of them, when I find out about them, they already got millions. That means they already have their own pocket of fan base, their own lane. You know what I'm saying? Because their fans supported them independently. Off their independent grind. When you look into their background, and that I really want to emphasize that we are in this time where we can create our own pockets of based off of our own family, friends, extended friends to extended friends, because your family and friends should be sharing it out anyways. You know what I mean? Come to find out, you got tens of thousands to 20,000 friends and family that literally like, yo, know you and say, yo, I'm willing to support you. If you really have that, that is a great foundation. You know what I'm saying? And I really want to just emphasize that for friends and family that are listening, that know independent artists, and you know that they good, you know that they all right down. You can't stunt. You might not.
And and y'all actually have an advantage. You know, y'all have an advantage. Like for instance, we can, as independent artists, we can speak to every one of our fans. I often tell some of the artists I'm coaching when they're like, you know, I have one person on my timeline. I have two people that commented. That's two people that will be liking and playing you on repeat and banging you if you honor them instead of going, oh, I only have two people. But guess what? The reason that a lot of independent artists fail, from what I've seen, is they don't do that. They'll take them two people that they have all the time and access in the world to big up and see what they're about and develop this relationship, and tell them to their face, oh, you're one of two people. And they don't say it directly to them, but these people are watching you. You know, they're watching you. They're in your thing. And so when you go, oh, I only got two fans, it's like, oh, he's talking about me. I'm not that important. If you're a sister, if you're a woman, if you're a person of color in these traditionally white supremacist institutions, which means that even people in our bodies, in women's bodies, in black people's bodies, and Latino bodies, are speaking the way that white male are expected to find palatable, right? Even if we are black or Latino, we're trained to speak in a palatable way to the stereotypical white male. Um, then you have a platform, because if you speak to yourself, there's a lot of people that have been waiting to just hear a black woman speak to black women. You know what I mean? So major labels don't actually have the time and energy to be you. And that 100 people that can be your fan and put you on playlists and big you up like crazy is way more powerful than 1,000 people who every time an ad comes out, they're going to flock to whoever's hot. But next week, they don't even know your name.
That's a dope point. That's a definitely dope point. With that being said, though, Rod, you was gonna say something?
I was gonna say this is a great comment right here where Josh just said, I've been hearing more women spit their truth here the last couple of years. Freedom of expression through arts is limited to things like gender. And I wanted to hear, you know, their response to this comment. The queen, I wanted to hear the queen's response to this comment.
Josh?
I don't know that freedom of expression is limited as much as there's limited attention to women who are freely expressing themselves.
There you go.
You look for it, they're there. You know, there's a woman doing whatever. You know, there's somebody who's, you know, a rocker right now. There's somebody who's playing the cello with Biggie right now. You know, if you look for it, it's there. The problem in society is that we don't give light to the right things.
Yes, I agree with that. I think so too. And I think now in a time, I always say like the internet is like the best thing ever, but the only problem with it is there's so much shit on it. And it's like now I think as artists we're in such a great space because we can create our own lane, we can interact with anybody from the world. Like you don't really have to be in that situation where now you're betting to spit to somebody on an elevator to give you a chance, because if you know your demographic, you know the type of people that are going to listen to you, you can find the people, the like-minded individuals that are going to support your art. The downside to that is the fact that the access, and that's the other thing though that we still see for artists like myself. And I think really the only people that are not limited to that are people still on a higher scale because that requires resources, right? Like if it's one of those things, you can upload your video to YouTube for free, but if you want 100,000 people to see that video, you're going to have to pay 100,000 people to see that video. The other caveat to that is maybe already having 100,000 ready people to see that video, or then now you're relying on the fact of word of mouth. So I think so that's that. But in terms of like the freedom of expression thing, I think that goes back to the space you take up. Like if you're in a respectable space and people are acknowledging you for who you are, like I've had people that I know straight up the reason why that they probably don't dig me is because they couldn't stand the fact. And this is more kind of opposite what we've been talking about. And so I'm not going to try and get like too crazy with it. But I feel like there's a lot of people that it would bother people that like I'm comfortable with who I am. It would bother them the fact that I want to have an intelligent conversation instead of a stupid conversation. So I think sometimes things like that can be problematic, but I think it's all about finding those like-minded individuals, and you figure with 7 billion people in the world, they definitely exist. It's just about finding those people.
There you go.
Yo, I got a natural question real quick. Y'all, first of all, y'all know y'all
Ray Jane didn't
collaborate.
respond real quick. Ray Jane didn't respond real quick.
Oh, my bad.
Well, I think I started with the response, just saying that the access we just don't have access, to those artists, but they're there.
Oh yes, of course.
Now, my thing was quick. Like, at all our guests, we got this dream, and it's gonna be a reality. But we gonna put all of y'all on our SoundMinds compilation. So whether it's a skit, whether it's a quote, whether it's a sample, y'all dropping so many gems, we are gonna be on something together. But just naturally, I have to say, the way y'all flowing together is like dope. I don't know if y'all knew each other before, but like I hope to see collabs between you. Miranda, I feel like you remind me a little bit of my younger self, but like you got a natural teacher quality. Like you bad with the bars, but you got a natural teacher quality, right? Like Ray J, you agree, right? So it's like let me know about that. Like, are y'all two gonna collaborate, and how do you balance that? Because I could tell you a type of person where you give advice to other artists and other sisters coming up. How do you balance giving advice? I just want to know this personally because I need help with this. How do you balance giving advice and being somebody people go to, as well as still doing your own music and doing your thing? You know what I mean? And not being overly like, okay, now I'm just becoming the person that give advice all the time.
Well, I always say like, my music is the best way to hear me. My lives and my interviews are the best way to talk to me. So I really wouldn't get into this, like the conversation. We're having a conversation right now, whereas a record is what, a 3.5 minute or 2.5, whatever you want to talk about. That's like more of a piece of me. So I always say, like, whenever you guys want to hear me talk, because I definitely can talk a lot, to tune into my lives, I always try and make it more of like a conversation where we can talk, more about the music side, like more about the music business. But as far as collaborating, I have not heard any of Ray J's music yet, but I love your energy. And as soon as we get off this interview, I will be following you on social media so that I can definitely see happening. So I'm just putting that out there right now.
So look at the beauty of how God works, right? Because I was about to segue into giving a piece of y'all, you know what I mean? And letting the people hear, because we've spoken to y'all, we've gained your wisdom, we've gained your opinions and feelings and sentiments. And I think it's only right that we go into hearing a piece of y'all, like you were saying, Miranda. So, I mean, for the most part, I think it'll be dope to start off with Ray Jane and her. Like once you hear this voice, like I said, y'all brace yourself, get them seatbelts ready, because when you hear the voice, it's gonna be something different. You know what I mean? So let's rock out with that. Then speak to Ray Jane real quick about it, and then go right into Miranda and her piece as well.
They come for my energy. but only I can touch it. They snatch it from my clutches, steal from me incessantly, but the joke's on them. My energy only responds to my hands, son. It's so pretty, it's handsome. Out, dance some, reach for me, and I, phantom. Ain't no pee-wee, I'm bantam. Give that lady a hand, son. She bar none and far from mean. Money green, she beams, she a lantern. Levitate you and turn you around profound. Toss her a word and she'll expound. Call her she a pronoun. I think you found. Done stumbled over the right crown. If he bay, he always pick up from ground. Lay my crown back down, then flip my frown. Quiet down. Be still now. The call real low brow. Frequency of humility to hear how. Do we save the world now? Then disallow any charlatan that dare disavow. Then sit back like, wow.
Fire.
Yes, let's go, let's go. We need snaps. We need snaps. We need claps. Let's
That's
go.
crazy.
Yo,
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
yo, you know, I think of like lyrics sometimes as puzzle pieces that fit together. You know how you got the puzzles that is like for kids that are big and they only have one round thing and it's easy. And then you got the ones that's small with lots of different, like those are called the phonemes and syllables of a word. This system was matching the syllables and phone.
Yeah.
Like when you make lantern rhyme with handsome, damn, son. Your lyrics is dance like, yo, like that's what you was talking
You
about.
said your lyrics was dance,
That's what
son.
you.
You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate you,
Wow.
man.
You know,
Fiery.
and you know what's crazy is the way you kind of like, you know, bar none. You know what I'm saying? The way you just flipped it, and then at the end of the day, because again, I am a analyst of I am a studier of wordplay and breaking down, and just for you to kind of like first and foremost, your opening bar, the way it sounds was crazy, and then for you to it's very, very straight off the bat.
Capturing.
You know what I mean? Straight, like if I was walking out the door, like, hold on, I gotta
They
sit and hear
come
this.
from my energy. Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hold up. I'm listening. Hold on. I'm
Yeah,
listening.
you
I'm listening.
got
Hold
you.
on.
You got you.
I'm looking right at you, listening. I have no other choice.
But you know what's crazy?
Yo, I was
You know what's crazy?
captured
And you know what's crazy?
It's a
And
fact.
you know what was wild is at the end of the day, right? And this is something that lyricists and wordsmiths, real wordsmiths that be and you know, like blacksmiths used to make that metal, right? And that's what wordsmiths do. We always sculpturing the hardest, the irons. The dope thing about a true wordsmith is one who, because a lot of people rhyme, you know what I'm saying? Or they say they rhyme and then, but when you're able to give a certain type of sentiment or feeling, and when you started with, you know, they come from my energy. So already I'm like, oh, okay. And for you to just finish it simply with on some, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like it, the energy goes from, damn, this is dope to, wow. Oh, snap. She just said what I felt. When you could get that type of feeling and sentiment from anybody listening, that's when you know you beyond dope. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to you, the way you just put the pieces together, the puzzle pieces just kind of like formulated like,
Beyond dope,
It's
as
incredible.
in down below from the tundra of the
Yo,
ancestors. Like,
that's
let's
crazy.
go. Shout out to the comments, man.
That's ZQ too, SoundMinds. Yo,
SoundMinds.
the comments is going crazy right now.
Yeah, that's dope.
I
I love
appreciate
it.
that.
Yes,
So
queen.
before we go into Miranda, I gotta ask you,
Yeah.
where was your mind at when you wrote that? Like what sparked it?
Oh man. I think what's been happening, and how easily we seem to be stripped of our greatness. I think every time I see that, every time we acquiesce in any way to being less than what we are, just really makes me feel like saying something, you know, and I get inspiration from everywhere, you know, walking down the street, talking to y'all, you know, there's a bunch of bars that's been dropped, and I'm like, ooh, we're gonna go back to that, and we'll go back to that later. But just wanting to tap into what I hope is my most powerful self and wanting to bring that across in an honest way. And I'm so floored by, you know, the love that you guys are giving me. I appreciate it so much. As I said before, I don't come into this expecting anything. I appreciate the opportunity to learn from you all, to talk with you, to share with you, to be heard, to be shared to other people, all the people who are commenting out there. I appreciate you. And I just hope that you can find some power in that to take with you, you know, and when the week starts and when you get through the week or you get to some hard point that makes you forget what's already inside of you, if you can hear something that I spit and go back to it and use it as a platform for your own power, I feel like that's the biggest gift that you could give me. So I appreciate you. I appreciate all the warmth. And
You can replay this on SoundMindsHipHop.com all day.
appreciate y'all.
Wow.
That is so dope. The humility is something, you know, when you're humble and you feel the humility within a person that knows that, you know what I'm saying? It's like some of the greatest samurais, you would never know their swordplay is so sick. You know what I'm saying? They just walk the earth or do what they do. But then when you test them, you find your neck severed or you know what I mean? Your finger off your hand and you sitting there like, damn, I should have known better. You know what I'm saying? So
Like, wow.
yeah, you know, like, wow, right. I hear you out here. Miss Miranda, we got to go to you and see, you know, let's build on your greatness.
Yeah, so I don't have anything. I'm not as prepared. I like to tune in with my Oh,
Oh, no, yeah. We got this. We prepped on this.
Oh, okay. Woo.
We were
I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute myself. This is COVID consciousness. I think it's definitely it fits the times. The message is so direct. And yes, let's get into this.
Damn, 5 months ago, I was sitting in the kitchen. It's a little tipsy till the new year kicks in, man. 5 months later, it's a whole pandemic. We sitting in the house, wondering about our health. And it has me really thinking how we're always on the move. And now that we have time, we don't know how to use it. Always in a schedule, because we always in routine. Now that we have time, things are always what they seem. We got people in the hospital, in the thousands dying. We got people in the homes, in the living room crying. Some in fear of illness, because we know the virus kills. But we got to get to work, and we gotta pay the bills. So we consume the news and TikToks every minute, posting on the gram just to see who's seen it. We yearn to be connected, so the internet's a flood. This letting advertising tells us to overcome, but it's got me really thinking what is normal isn't normal. Are we moving forward? Are we moving in a circle? Will this change the future and how we get together? What will we tell ourselves and how will we remember? So we cover up our faces to lessen this disease, uncover the third eye so we can really see. I hope we use this time to become a little conscious. It's a little evident when the nonsense really got us. It's a little evident where the nonsense really got us. I hope we use this time to become a little conscious.
Hey.
that was fire.
A little conscious.
Like, I hope so too.
So I gotta say, Miranda, pardon me if we cover up our faces to unleash our third eye. That's just insane. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody is just kind of like, and it's funny because truthfully, like I was showing my clients Lupe Fiasco's words I never said. You know what I mean? And in the video he has everybody, and this was back in 2000 something crazy. But everybody had the mouthpieces on their mouths, and now we looking at that, and it's just kind of like, oh, now we all covered up. So talk to us, Miranda. What was on your mind with this one?
I think I mute myself. I don't know. But a lot of you guys can hear me, right? Okay, cool. So, a lot of things were on my mind. A lot of things are still on my mind, and I think it's interesting because first of all, things are still not normal, right? We know that we're trying to tell ourselves things are normal because we're missing that. But what I really was putting out there is the normality that we're used to isn't really normal. Like when I write for the everyday person because that's what's real to me. You know what I'm saying? And I can't help, this was even a thought pre-COVID, but it's one of those things where it's like we live in a society, right? So we're born. I'm gonna try not to have a super long answer, but we're born, we grow up like as kids, we kind of get this fun life, blah, blah, blah. Then we're forced to adult. And a lot of us, we all make the joke that adulting sucks. And the reason why that is because we're forced to live in a society where, the average person, right? You work for somebody else to make a paycheck, to keep the necessities that you need. A lot of people don't even have what they want. A lot of people just have just enough to have what they need to come home, go to sleep, and do it all again. And that's what's normal to us. And you can't help but ask the question, is that
Yo,
normal?
I got a sound mindset before you continue.
Sound
Damn,
minds.
damn. If your heart ain't hurting right now, this is letting you know. This is some of us is in zombie
No,
mode,
and this
y'all.
is we're
And if you
all
didn't realize, she just woke
and just
you
so
up.
everybody knows, we're all in zombie mode. Like we're all in zombie mode. We may all be different kinds of zombies, but we're all in zombie mode. You know what I'm saying? So we'll all march together.
Yo, she dropping
You,
gems.
yo,
Yo,
hold up.
kinds of
Yo,
zombies.
she really just made a whole segue for like, I walk around,
Yes,
zombies.
everybody walk around.
Zombie,
But
yo.
so it came from that, and then there was that time when I wrote this when we were in lockdown in the beginning. When we were on lockdown, there was no going out to the bar. Oh, you can sit down like you can now. You can't, you know what I'm saying? But this was when we were all straight in lockdown. And it was crazy to me how none of us really knew how to use our time. And the average person doesn't know how to use their time because we've been so used to having somebody else dictate how we spend our time. So now we're sitting at home in the midst of this global pandemic, and we're watching commercials telling us, we'll get through this together, guys, But we have to ask ourselves as people, like, this normal that we're rushing back to, is this shit really normal? And I think it's a lot deeper than a conversation that you can't just have in 5 minutes. This is something that I think most people actually ask themselves throughout this lifetime. So my whole thing is just like, I'm just curious to see, as a society, as we move forward from this, what are we going to change in our individual lives to make ourselves happier, to have more peace in our lives, to take more control of our lives. Like, so that's where I was at. And then, the fact that we are obviously covering our faces is the right thing to do. So wear your mask, but as you cover up your face, like, use this time to open up your third eye and really ask yourself maybe questions that you haven't asked yourself in a long time. So that's kind of
I have a question that you just said. Now, that was a great alley-oop for me to ask you this question. Since you wrote that in the beginning of COVID, now that we're in this point in time, how much more awakening have you seen society become in or yourself?
Sadly, I haven't seen much. And that is actually what's scary. And this is not in terms of, because like I said, somebody can say, Miranda, you don't know shit. I don't know the end all be all, but it's just interesting to me that we went from really having time to really think about how we spend our time to everybody just wanting to rush back into doing the same thing, so desperate to get back into that routine. And like I said, part of that is because we have to do that, right? We need to, people have families, we need to provide for ourselves. So I get that. I'm not disrespecting that, because I get that that's entirely something different. But I don't know. I also think we haven't seen the end of it, right? Like, in a way, COVID is still around. Like, things are locking down again. So I think I don't even know if I really have the answer to that question, because I don't think we've yet to see the long-term effects of this, because this is not even over. So my biggest thing is, like I said, is to use this. I always say this is a really weird time in the world, but use this time to learn, explore yourself more. It's, read a couple of good books, create, be around people that make you happy. The one thing that I will say that I do think is that people are finally starting to value their personal relationships more, because now people are realizing that how important relationships are. We kind of took them for granted before. We were able to see people, or then, let's be real, like, I don't want to see my cousin today. It was like one of those things.
Facts.
And now we miss that.
Facts.
We miss
Facts.
that. So that's the one thing that I will say that I see, is that we definitely value relationships more. We value being able to do the things we used to do more. Now I think it's just, how do we value life as a whole more? How do we fully look at life now? So that's something that I don't think we've seen yet. And I think we definitely will see it. And it will be interesting to see how people move going forward.
It's funny, you say that, right? And when that whole and this is not in any way a shameless plug, but it just kind of sparked something in me when that whole Cold Summer thing came out, that challenge came out with Fabulous's track, and I did something to that, did a little 16 to that, and that's one of the things that I said. I said, family's getting closer, at least I would hope. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just kind of like, we would hope to think that this has drawn loved ones, friends, acquaintances, your inner circle tighter, rather than kind of like, expanded it more. And I think a lot of times, like you were saying, a lot of people sit there and be like, yo, damn, I hate watching this person. I hate seeing this person. I hate being in parties with this person. And now it's just kind of like, damn, I hope that we appreciate, and more so kind of do the science behind the fact that if this right here has separated us more, then it did exactly what it was supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? What the agenda was. But if we break that cycle, that secular, and you even mentioned that in this verse right here, where you said, are we going in circle or are we going forward? You know what I mean? Like, in a sense, it's that whole mentality of that cyclical, continuous routine that we do, mindlessly doing it without even thinking about, damn, I am really a zombie. I'm really doing my 9 to 5s and then praising my weekends to only hate the job that I'm going back to on Monday again. You know what I mean? So thank you for definitely sharing that. That's dope.
Miranda, I just had one thing to say. First of all, I appreciate your perspective, sis. I think every time you open your mouth, you are inviting people to know you a little bit better, but you're also challenging us to know ourselves a little bit better. And I think that's one thing that women do exceptionally well, is to give you a piece of themselves, to invite you to look at yourself, right? And I think that, just piggybacking off of what you guys are talking about, I think it's really important to consider that COVID has given us, an impetus to, really appreciate our relationships a little bit more, but it's also given us permission to clarify who we want to collaborate with, right? So this opportunity, for one, gives me an opportunity to meet you and, think of you as somebody that I would love to collaborate with. But it also, on the other side, maybe reveals things about people that I didn't have the time to see or didn't want to see before, and gives me a chance to, purify my space and my own energy by choosing, and coming to terms with the fact that I have the ability and the right to choose who shares my energy.
Powerful.
So y'all have dropped more
Hold
gems.
on, hold on. Sound minds to that, man. Sound minds. Yo, y'all so dope. Y'all so. Go ahead, my fault. Go ahead. So,
Nah, you said it. Like, forget featuring them on a compilation. This might have to be a compilation itself. The first 10 minutes, the second 10 minutes, like, y'all, thank you. You have over delivered. You given so much quality. The last question, we are gonna ask the last question as we end up, but I just wanted to say, if there was any doubt in your mind, sometimes as artists we be in a flow state and lose track of time. I just want to let y'all know, like, if y'all was just warming up, you already started, middled, and bodied beyond what we could ask. And I'm just basking in appreciation. This time of year, a lot of people are going through things and things slowing down. We just came out of Mercury retrograde. To have y'all just sincerely give of yourself, your time, the rapport between each other, having not even met each other before, this is exactly what our followers need. And we appreciate that y'all came to introduce yourselves, and want to let you know that you are stamped in the constellation. You are two of our newest and brightest stars in the constellation, you and the SoundMinds. And I cannot say that enough. Like, thank y'all. Don't be confused. Like, you did it. You did it. We each gonna ask you something winding down, obviously. My thing winding down is just basically like what you say to the young sisters, that when someone says you're to this or you're to that, what's a quick thing that they can think or reply or just think in their own head when people are telling them you're to this or to that?
Say, define yourself. That's your only job for the rest of your life, is how you define yourself. So don't let anybody say anything to you that confuses you about your first and only responsibility to yourself, which is to define yourself.
My personal, I guess, piece would be, and this is coming from me personally, and this isn't going to happen to any other woman, is that I've been told that I'm too much of everything and too little of everything. And besides that, I'm still here. I'm still speaking my truth. I'm still connecting with new people every day. And I'm still fighting for what I feel I deserve and what I feel that other women deserve and what I think people deserve. So, yeah, fuck it. Speak your truth, That's why we're here. So,
fuck it. That's right.
Exactly.
Those were powerful answers. I mean, man, I'm actually speechless right now, and I'm actually really just want to thank y'all both for coming. This was something that I even needed. I know y'all speaking for the women and for people, but this is something that I needed. I definitely needed to hear, your perspectives and your strength, that you speak from, on the and from the artist perspective, and the vulnerability perspective, that you have in your lyrics. That's something that I definitely needed, because I am that type of artist. So I just want to thank you for what you've shared and the gems that you've blessed us with. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
oh, we're not finished though.
Oh, we're not. Okay. I was gonna say.
Yeah, no. We can't.
One last segment. The last segment.
So, as you know, for the most part, this is a platform. This is a platform that was created by artists. If I say so myself, dope artists. But we also create this platform from artists for artists. And with that being said, we always ask artists to come on and spit their favorite 16 or their favorite piece that they've written. So with that being said, can you guys please bless us with your favorite piece that you wrote down or your favorite 16?
All right, cool. No doubt. For me, my favorite piece so far, because I'm hoping to have many more favorites along the way, is a joint called Mortal Kombat. So I'm gonna share that with y'all. And this is a reminder for myself. And I think that's why it's my favorite, is I can read it or recite it at any time and remember who I am and who I'm trying to be. Battling for myself like I ain't been it. Like I could really diminish. I've been this infinite for a minute, on fire like sin. It broke down, no, they didn't. Still pivotal like 10-10. It won't be long now, cause I'ma finish it. My flex, reflex, get over here, give me it. Or I'ma pillage it. Run through your shit like run your shit. The lengths I go for it, criminal. Thoughts deep but far from subliminal. Blowing the steam off my tea, let it simmer and sip. When you heating it like weed, I get to lifting it. Powers me up, bass hit. Battery bat in my back, words go like Flo Joe, got my nails in it. Grabbing gold, I clench fists. Throw a fit with the confidence to spit cadence from Egypt. Unmasked, I ask with the asp. If any further questions dare exist, I'm numb to it. Blasting you with the venom, you can forget it when I start to freak it. I juke it, best believe it. I'll leave it with your bottom, bitch. I'm too legit, just quit. Cause I'm Yoda with it. The game is rigged, this yelling back from red tape and shit be yours. It can't, cause mine, it is. Thank you.
Flawless victory.
SoundMinds.
Finish him.
Yo,
Fatality.
get over here and that you can juke it crazy.
Lyricality.
See what I mean? Makes me feel good. I'm glad it
There
made
you
y'all
go.
feel good. I appreciate you for the space and the venue. I thank you for introducing me to homegirl Miranda. I know this is just a beginning. If nothing else, to have shared space with you, I feel honored to be counted amongst you. So thank you. And y'all be safe in here. I know what it
Yo, you one of the coolest individuals walking this planet.
Hey,
You
man.
understand me?
Hey yo,
Your whole mannerism, like,
transformed in front of her just now, right? See, look, did y'all just see the transformation just now? She went from you get to yo, I just want to, I love y'all, I love y'all.
yo, it's real interesting to me how like the great Excelsiors be real humble. They be like, yeah, what I'm saying? It's not really boom.
Exactly. It was like
You feel me? Like,
Yo, it's not even me. I think that's what you're seeing. I think that poetry has allowed me to reconnect with God. And I think that what comes out of me is me allowing myself to be really in touch with love, who I think is the same thing as God. And so when I stop speaking, I return to who I am, which is not as big as God. And I'm not to say that me speaking that I am God or anything like that, because that's just foolish. But rather, that's where that comes from.
talk. We hear you.
Hey, we say it started with the word, right?
That's right. And
Talk to him.
I don't mean to, alienate anybody of any particular spiritual belief or background. When I speak about God, I mean whatever you believe is bigger than you are. Whatever it is that allows you to take your hands off yourself for a moment to touch somebody else. That's what I believe is God. For some people, that's the earth, that's nature, that's, a spiritual being, that's Buddha, that's Muhammad, that's whoever it is for you is for you.
I'm a call the name of Isaac Hayes, and I never said this about an MC. I think Jay-Z did a good job of sampling him. I think Social Mischief, but yo, you got an air that I have rarely seen since Isaac Hayes. Rest in peace, rest in power.
Ooh.
Isaac Hayes is a dude where he could start a track and say nothing, or he could just talk before the bars even hit, and it would be better than anything else out. And like, you got that same vibe. Like, so I never told anybody that because I never felt the need to. Like, you got a real powerful thing that I respect and that I'm proud of in Black culture. And like, I just want to be a testament. Like, you are a great person. You are cool as you. Cool. You are bad. Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. You
Do
sound.
what you do.
I mean, I appreciate you showering me and everything. I'm just going to have it and all this love y'all is giving me right here, you know.
And before we move on to Queen Miranda, I want to ask, because I already want to hear it again. So you got to tell us, where can we find you, and listen to you?
No doubt. Well, you can find all of my content, my SoundCloud. If you're more, the kind of person that likes to read the work, I have a link to my blog as well. All on my website. It's Ray Jane. I got a little sign for y'all. It's rayjane.com. Yeah, definitely. You can follow me.
Screenshot that right now.
Where we at? Right.
Yep, there you go. Everybody screenshot that right now and go ahead and follow, or go right to the website ASAP.
That's right. You could get a link to anything and everything there. On my SoundCloud, I have something like 50 tracks, all poetry, all various versions of myself. I invite you, if you take the time to come and share or listen, I appreciate you in advance. The Queen, what's up?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if my mic was still muted or not. So I was like,
Nope,
doing
you
this
are
whole
all
mic
good.
muting thing. So I'm like, am I muted? Okay.
I thought you was taking a selfie or something. I was like, what's going on?
Hold up, hear me out. I got a story to tell. I shouldn't have my spot on XXL, but it's all good. It's a calm before the storm, so the class go ahead and ring the alarm. Let me clear the air while you listening and judging. Lord knows I heard it all, and I appreciate the loving. They be taking looks saying she must be a singer. You don't look the part. I say, tell me how you fitted. They say, nah, no disrespect. Guess it's your demeanor. Flip the non-believers to believers through the speakers. I say no disrespect when I'm nicer in the cipher. And time come prepared, and I pray you call your writers. Crushing what they think in one line at a time. Never mind the challenges. I understand the mind. It's like a constant game of who? Let me follow the leader. Tell me who's your leader. How much did they teach you? Made it too easy. Everybody's wanting titles, so we separated. Realists took the whack and made it viral. Then we contemplating why people don't have a message. But in evolution, it's all in the percentage. I ain't here to lecture what you bopping, what you feeling. Rights, murder, records, old quarters, 4 seasons.
Oh my gosh, let's go. SoundMinds.
Thank you guys.
She said, show me who your leader is to tell me what they teach you. Crazy.
Manners.
Shout out to the comment in 100 years. When they look back to see how we lived in 2020, man, they will listen to the poets that try to understand these two women. These two queens right here, man, their voices will help give them a peek into society right here. Oh, man.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. So listen, I got to be honest with you. At the end of the day, what we do, right, is an art form. It is a talent. It is a skill level that needs to be set with a certain skill set. And I think a lot of people have wasted that over the years. This is Lucy. Shout out to you, Lucy. This is so incredibly imperative and detrimental to our culture to let it be known that women spitters are dope. And if you drown down or kind of play play lower self to just, for the most part, entertain others, your entertainment needs to be in the wordplay how you empowering people. So by all means, these two women today were incredibly definitive in the fact that real MCs are real MCs. You know what I mean? Real wordsmiths are real wordsmiths. So when you see Miss Miranda Wrights and you see Ms. Ray J, understand that it comes with a certain type of respect of the swordship, that when they spitting, it's because they putting time into what they putting down. And it's not no regular, go get the gat. I heard that. Go get the bat. No, none of that. Like those lyrics and all that, that's cute if you are trying to understand what rap is. This right here is the culture. This is hip hop. This is wordsmith. This is poetry, spoken word. So shout out to them. Miranda, please, if you can, tell people how they can find you, how they can find your videos and all that and all your content.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys want to check out more of my music, just put me into Google, type in, I always say that's the easiest way, type Miranda Writes. It's WRITES. I just released my music video for The Dawn not too long ago. So that is my latest single, my latest music video. So definitely check that out. I'm constantly putting out new music, constantly just putting out little freestyles, things like that. So check that out. Like I said, Miranda Writes, WRITES. Another way, if you guys want to go to my website, it's www.misswrites.com, MSWRITES.com. And yeah, you guys will find me. Like I said, just put me in Google and you'll find all my stuff.
She said, Google me, y'all. Google me.
Google me, boo.
To even piggyback on that, man, he was saying, no, they're true wordsmith, they're true women wordsmith, and that's right in the title of tonight's podcast, you know, that we are on with true women wordsmith. But at the same time, we got in the comments, they said craftswomen right here, you know, they crafted with them lyrics now. They craft. So I mean, the titles, man, the level, you feel me? Just, you know, the titles that you have really represents the level that you queen spit at.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here, man, and just to be a reminder to you, you know, on behalf of not all women, because we don't speak for everybody, right? But just to be a reminder to you of the fact that nobody's been whispering to you longer than your mother, right? So if you're looking for who you want to be speaking to you, remember who's the first person to speak to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yo, somebody said they about to buy you a sundae.
No, thank you for the wisdom.
I like Sundays. I can totally go for a Sunday. Little hot spot.
And shout out to the.
I'm not really a sprinkle person though, so leave out the sprinkles.
We don't talk, Miranda, because it's about to come up. They gonna flip
like you were saying, Ray J, about like the, you know, the Most High and the God and the energy. You know, me and Ra, I know you and me was both holding back everything they said. We was at a very deep spiritual event yesterday that I'm not going to get into, but almost everything y'all said had a way deeper meaning of a legacy of like some powerful people that have come before us. So it's like, it's sometimes you don't even have to get into the nerdy details like people know I'm very good at, because you just know it's working. You know what I mean?
It's a fact. It's a fact. Everything 100% is what he's saying is a fact. You know what I mean? Without even getting into it, y'all.
Yes.
We just said it.
Fact.
You and even in the comments agreed. Like y'all are speaking exactly what we need to hear right now at this specific time. You know what I mean?
Like somebody about to give you a Sunday, right? But like the great all gave us this Sunday was not supposed to be this sunny and beautiful. It was supposed to be rainy and stormy. Like things are coming together now. What the sisters said about taking this time to like not go back to routine, but make things better than has been projected for us by other people. Please take that to heart. That's my SoundMinds quote of the day. I'm not going to shout out a track of mine this week. I'm actually going to tell you to go check out these sisters because they left their links, and I'm going to do the same damn thing myself. So y'all need to get with it.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. SoundMinds. It's light.
And not only that, but for the most part, look for them to be on the SoundMind playlist. You know what I'm saying? Because truth of the matter is, the greatness of the playlist is not necessarily just because guests are here, but it's because we really believe in dopeness. We really believe in what SoundMinds represents, and these two phenomenal women are a representation of themselves. But the like-mindedness of what SoundMinds is because they're guests here on a show that only speaks on exuding that. So they're going to be on our playlist as well, you know, and shout out to them. Please follow them, look for them. Just understand that if you haven't got familiar yet, You're just in the beginning stages of greatness right now. See what I mean? So join them on their journey. SoundMinds.